we're going to talk about user reviews in the App Store and the Play Store, basically. Before we do that, as is mandatory for any session, we need to talk about the company we represent. So we actually work for AppTweak, and AppTweak is an ASO platform. A lot of customers, I won't get you the full list, but basically our goal has always been to try and help people grow their app. We've actually gotten recognition from APS among others, and we're very proud of that. And we work with mostly a platform or tool where you can try to find insight for these 4 keywords, I think, in growth today: attract, convert, monitor, and expand. And we try to do that with data science. We try to do that with services. So that's why today you have Benoit from our data science team, as well as myself for the customer solutions team. And we're going to be presenting a bit what we've been working on in the past few months. We work with specific features. The only one I will mention today is this one, which actually is named Atlas. It's actually a data science tool that powers multiple features in our platform, and that has helped break some of the biggest technicalities that come from the store, I would say. So about us, as I said, we're respectively a data scientist and head of ASO, and some of our credentials include Atlas, but also Benoit has worked extensively on our app and game DNAs feature, which helps you group apps in a way that's much more comprehensive than store categories these days. As for myself, I've also worked on questions such as cannibalization in search ads or A/B testing, because A/B testing with platforms is not always extremely accurate. So if you want to hear about that, let us know at the end of the session. For today, we're going to be talking about how to strike gold in user reviews. And so the first step will be how to actually find the gold, because you probably know that a lot of people tell you user reviews are amazing, and then if we ask by show of hands how many of you have actually looked in your user reviews in the past months, I'm kind of curious to see the result, but I fear there may not be that many raised hands. So we'll explain how you can actually try to do it efficiently. Also, what you can make from the useful feedback and actually try new marketing initiatives. And finish with some thoughts, some thought experiments, even in my case, on how we can take a model that we've developed a step further. So I'll let Benoit explain how we came up with the idea of a machine learning model for reviews, and you'll see how a data scientist is all about numbers, basically.
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, Simon. So yeah, as Simon is saying, I'm going to start, since I'm a data scientist, with some numbers. But for these numbers, I want you to maybe take a guess. So what I want to show first is the amount of reviews that we are talking about. So let's say we're talking in the US for iPhone, to take the top 100 apps today and try to estimate how many reviews did they get altogether. Does anybody want to wager a guess?
52 million.
50 million. That's a bold statement, because actually that's 74,000 reviews.
Okay.
But I'm going to show you that that's still a lot, because 50 million is like basically if you take all the reviews that ever came up in the store, that's roughly the kind of estimation that you can get. Here we're only talking about 30 days and only in the US. But let's go a bit deeper into this number, and let's talk about Spotify. Spotify is the app in the last 30 days in the US that gathered the most reviews. They got 5,000 reviews. But there's still 180,000 words. And if you want to put that into perspective, I think since we're here, we don't have a better way to put things into perspective than using Harry Potter. And 180,000 words is more than the 2 first Harry Potter books and some. So this really means that every month you get books and books worth of reviews. But now the question is, what do these reviews look like? And unfortunately, most of the time reviews will lack the actionable feedback that you're looking for.
Or the quality of Harry Potter.
Or the quality of Harry Potter. This is not Harry Potter level style of writing. What you will always, like most of the time what you're going to see is like these kind of reviews. Really short and no action points. I want also to show a special mention to this one, the elusive double nope, but that's still like 4 stars, so we still take those. So when you see that there are so many reviews and so many reviews look like this, maybe you can be a bit discouraged. But if you take the time to sift through all of these reviews, you can come across reviews that we're gonna call like golden nuggets. This is the type of reviews in which you can find actionable topics, sometimes several topics in one review, and that you can show to your marketing team, to your product team, and get some actual action done with these reviews. Most of the time, they're not going to look as polite because you can find a lot of feedback in the 1-star review. It can be a bit aggressive, but I promise you that even in 1-star content, you can find really actionable topics. So now, how do we find this type of reviews? And is there a way to automate this type of stuff? Because we don't want to be sifting manually to all of our reviews. Well, what we've been doing so far that week, and I think what most of the industry has been doing, is first of all, to filter by rating. You are going to look at the 1- and 2-star reviews to see what the users are complaining about, and you're going to look at 4- and 5-star review to see what positive things they have in mind. This has some type of limitation, because you can also come across this. You have poor rating associated to positive content. We wanted to quantify this a bit, and what we have found is that on Android particularly, you have 4% of all the 1-star reviews out there that are actually linked to positive content. So that's kind of a pain. Now, the next big way to filter out reviews will be to filter by keyword. I think a lot of you have already done this probably. It is an efficient way to have an overview of a topic, but there are some problems linked to it. First of all, one of the problems is that one topic is not linked to only one keyword. Let's say, for instance, for Facebook, I want to have a list of all the reviews that complain about the logging issues. Then I can write down access, I can write down logged out, I can write down login, and probably some more others. Another main issue with this method is that you will only find what you're looking for. You still have to do the manual work of putting in some keywords, and when you put in the keyword login for the Facebook 1-star reviews, you know what you're gonna find. You're not gonna come across something unexpected, and that's what we want. We want to find the unexpected. So basically, this is where we were standing, where the data science team came in. What we want is to have another automated way to find topics in the set of reviews. And the first technology to which we turned, and I think a lot of people are turning to it recently, is ChatGPT. So we have put ChatGPT to the test for this particular topic. And for instance, we have asked ChatGPT for Netflix to list us the most common topics that we can find in the reviews of the app on iPhone. And to be fair, initially we were pretty impressed. We really believe it is a game changer, especially when it comes to providing a text, human readable summary out of a large corpus of text. It's really, really impressive. And here we see that we have a list of 6 topics that sound actionable and with some descriptions. So that's pretty nice. But then when we were thinking, if we were the responsible of the development of Netflix, if you want to take these topics to the next level, what could we do? And that's when the things started to sound a bit more complicated. First of all, we realized that even after passing the whole list of reviews manually to ChatGPT, it can still add some content because it's really, really smart. In a sense, it's too smart for its own good. So it can fill in the blanks, and it can guess that since Netflix is a streaming service, people might be complaining about the streaming quality. But when you want to link back to the reviews, actually, they don't complain about this. Then, and most importantly, the results that are here, they look nice, but they are not quantitative and they are not interpretable. And so, for instance, when we look at the app performance, maybe we want to know when this problem occurs. We don't know. If we look about the content, we want more detail. Which is the content exactly that users are complaining about? We don't know. And if we want to have a quantitative idea of which topic is more important than the other one, we don't have anything. Lastly, this is not the case here, but we have also come across some more direct errors, such as repetitions or just false information. So this, in a sense, was a bit humbling for us because we thought that we're going to solve everything with ChatGPT, but it turns out that the promising insights that were there could be turned into misleading conclusions. So now what we want to do is basically create a model that is simpler than ChatGPT, but that addresses these issues. This means something that is quantitative and that is able to trace back to the review. And this is what we did, basically. So what we have here is an unsupervised machine learning model that is able to find topics in a set of reviews. So the only input that we have to pass to this model is a set, for instance, here, all the 1-star and 2-star reviews of Netflix. And we just need to manually input a number of topics. Let's say we want to have 4 topics. Then the model does its magic, and it can come up with these 4 topics. So first of all, we have people complaining about the pricing, also about the device compatibility when casting, the fact that some content gets removed, and general bugs of the app. And from the get-go, we have an extra step than what ChatGPT did. We also have the related keywords. So that's something to look out for. But now, and really, really importantly, we have a way to trace back to each individual review. So if we take any review, be it in the past or even in the future, after we have fit the model, we are able to ask the model to give for each of these topics a score to this review. So let's say this review, it doesn't talk at all about the general bug or the device compatibility, but it does talk a bit into like the remove content issues and especially about the pricing. If we do this for all the reviews in the past and we aggregate on each topic, what we can build is a graph that monitors the evolution of a topic through time. And this is what we're showing here. If we look at the topic of the pricing issue, week by week, we can track the average sentiment regarding this topic, and we can detect trends in the evolution. For instance, here, some Netflix fans out here might be recognizing that in the end of February is when Netflix announced that the password sharing feature was going to be paid eventually, in a paid plan. So everybody was complaining that you shouldn't have to pay for this feature that was free in the past. We can also do this across all the topics, and for some of them, we can discover that basically this is a recurring feedback. There is no emergency. This is something that we can schedule for later. But sometimes you can come across big spikes such as this one, which if you use this type of graph as a monitoring, you can have maybe set up an alert, and you can directly have a look at the reviews behind this. And you can discover that everybody is complaining that you removed Vampire Diaries. So that's about it when it comes to finding topics, and I'll let Simon explain to you how can you turn all these topics into actions.
I promise I won't talk about Vampire Diaries. I know it's a big trauma for people in the US. So in here, I'm going to start with some of the basics. Probably it will feel a bit normal to say, like, what can you do once you know what people are talking about in your product? Well, if they're talking about bugs, usually fix them. But it's kind of good to know that with this kind of model, you actually know what bugs they're talking about, when they're talking about it, how many times they're talking about it, because also when they're using suggesting features, same kind of thing. So for everyone who's on Twitter out there, I'm pretty sure that everyone loves to say, when do we have the ability to edit our tweets because these grammar mistakes and misspellings are annoying? Well, over time, what you can see is that in here, the topic actually has really died down in the amount of reviews that Twitter is getting. However, the average has also gone down. So if there's any product manager from Twitter in the room, first, I'm in favor of tweet edit, but also, and more importantly, that's the kind of thing where you're going to know I have to make the arbitration between less people are talking about it, it's a lesser priority, or people are becoming more negative about it. That means we need to act. Another thing is also how store reviews are important, and not just for visibility, also for conversion. Visibility, we know that Apple and Google repeat to developers, if your app has a low average rating, we won't be featuring you. But more importantly, this is a study we didn't do, but we did find insightful. Apptentive has shown in 2020 that almost 80% of people say they actually look at reviews and ratings before downloading an app, and that if you go from 3 stars to 4 stars, that's an increase in conversion by 92%. So again, knowing what people talk about and how you can engage with them is going to be important. One way to engage with them is to reply to them. If you remember the whole 1-star ratings on Google Play, 4% are actually positive. You may not want to go and reply to them directly, but that's where you can automate the thing. we have something in AppTweak today. We are actually still using GPT to write the replies for us. So if it's something you know you're dealing with, you can also come and ask at the end of the session. But that will have a big impact. And now if we're thinking really marketing style, how can we do more? Well, one thing that's kind of important is to know that people like to hear people trust you. So you can actually put it in your screenshots as well. Show a couple of reviews. Here I took 2 examples from 2 very different apps. One is a payment app, one is a meditation or sleeping app. So these are kind of ideas you can use, and if you can quickly find a positive review with a topic that you know relates well to, let's say, not just the download, but a paying feature at random, you may want to show this as a very good benefit that will drive people to go in your app to the right section of your app and actually engage with that part of the content. And then this is like one of the case studies I'm most proud of. And that's because you can go really deep in marketing when you know what people talk about. So it happened that we actually used a review analysis that we did with SoundCloud last year. And we saw multiple people talking about the fact that you can skip as much as you want. If you're using Spotify for free, you know what this is about. It's about the fact that all the other apps, they actually limit the amount of time you can skip to the next track in an hour. And so when we realized, okay, people are talking about this really cool free benefit, then we said, let's, well, first talk about it. So we're going to create our own custom product page to show this benefit. And then we're going to use it on ads that target Spotify and other competitors. And basically, that led to a 58% increase in conversion rate for that specific ad campaign. And running the math, it looked like if we hadn't done this, SoundCloud would have ended up paying almost 40% more on their budget for the amount of install that they got from that campaign. Now I'm getting a bit more into the thought experiment, but it's also thinking, when you see interesting reviews or very strong topics, you can go further than just making creatives out of it. You can even think about activating more people. So you have good reviews, you want to keep your rating going up. One thing is, look at what people talk about. Here for Street Fighter Duel, they actually talk about how it's really cool to get new fighters, new characters in the game. That to me means that cool tip for Street Fighter is whenever someone gets a new character, show them a rating prompt saying, hey, do you find our app is cool? Because most of them will. And then if you go into what people have to say, and some people have a lot to say, here someone is actually telling us there are characters that are exclusive. You can only get them through an event. And that to me means I shouldn't only tell people when they get those characters that they need to give me a good review. I should tell them, tell your friends, the event is ongoing, you still have a chance to get it. And then hopefully I get a virality loop going and I get more installs and I get more people going. So it's really something where there's way too many ideas not to look at what's in the reviews. Now, we do want to talk about some of the challenges of the model. So first thing is, with Benoit, he reminded me, well, we know a lot of apps have a lot of reviews, but also some have fewer. So I'll let you explain how you found a trick to beat that problem.
So yeah, basically, as Simon was saying, not everyone is SoundCloud, basically. Like, is Spotify. Sorry.
SoundCloud's pretty good too.
Yeah, but not everyone is getting 5,000 reviews per month per localization. You can, let's say you are EasyJet, you're still a pretty relevant app. You're number 12 in the travel category. You're a really famous brand. People are getting feedback. But still this, like in France, will amount to, let's say, 40 reviews per month. This is a good start, but it's not enough to really leverage the big data effect and try to have a proper review monitoring through time. But fortunately, a brand such as EasyJet is popular across Europe. So if we use this to leverage information both in both stores and in all the countries in Europe, then the meager 40 reviews per month can turn into 500 reviews per month. And now, like, we have a tenfold increase, and now it's sufficient to have proper review modeling. But as you may know, in Europe, people tend to speak different languages, so we cannot just plug these reviews into our model. We just need to translate them, but fortunately, in the data science world, we have many techniques for doing that. Once we have done this, we can simply translate them to English and then map our model as we have done previously. This allows us, for instance, as all the people in this room who speak French and Spanish and Thai will have already known, that these 3 reviews are actually all complaining about the same topic, the Netflix not being worth the price. And also, as once again, in a quantitative way, which is really nice.
So the other way to look at it is, it's good to know about one app, but what if I want to know about multiple apps, or also what if my app does way too many things? So for that, the first thing is multiple apps. I want to find what they have in common. Well, again, we have this problem of there's 30 store categories today, roughly. If you're familiar with iOS lifestyle, basically will include social networks, will include things sometimes such as pedometers, and also dating, so things that have a lot in common. So what we do first is we have the same kind of technology as with the reviews. We have a semantic engine that can actually help cluster apps based on what they're actually about. This is what leads us to have about 200 DNAs. If you want to know more about the system and how to label it, you have the guy who made it possible here. And once we have that, I went to Benoit and said, I want to try and see what food delivery and grocery delivery have in common and what separates them. So we looked at the top 5 for both these DNAs, and what we found is that, yeah, there are common topics, common issues for both. Fulfillment errors, everyone's angry when they don't get the right thing in their package. The delivery time is mentioned in both, although you see that it's way more stressful to be in the food delivery part because people who get hungry get angry. With the groceries, people can be a lot happier about, hey, my order arrived in 2 days. If you do that in food delivery, probably it's becoming more of an issue. And then we have different topics as well. So if now I'm thinking, I just want to do concept research and I want to figure out what can I do to create an innovative app in one of these sectors, or even develop a service for the companies that are behind these apps, I'm going to be able to look at what people care about. And then if we want to also, again, go back to the question of campaigns, well, if you're familiar with Pinterest, Pinterest has a lot of things and they're not super clear. So quick hack, technically you can find some topics also generated by Google. You don't get to choose how many. Sometimes you don't get a lot of insights, so that's why we built our own model. But for Pinterest, I found it interesting to see that people mention things such as tutorials, but also hairstyles or recipes. Because here I'm thinking, okay, I have multiple angles if I want to develop something marketing-wise. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, again, the clusters that you saw before, and I'm going to look at which are the apps that have the same kind of topics mentioned in the reviews. And I'll tell Pinterest, hey, how about targeting these apps in search ads? Because if you want to build your reputation, a quick CPP, target these apps, and you'll actually have a new way of acquiring users, because probably someone looking for a cooking app didn't think of Pinterest first. But if you show them a nice CPP explaining how you have a lot of recipe IDs on Pinterest, pretty sure you can get some good conversion there. So these are just going to be some of the applications we found for now. We're really curious to hear if you guys have ideas for more applications. And we do have some time for Q&A, so I'll open it to the floor. First question is always the hardest, so I'll actually answer the unanswered question, the unasked question. The slides can be shared. Just let us know you want them, and we'll send them to your email address. Now, I do need a first question for good.
Do you think they'll ever solve
Sorry, we need to also have you guys on sound, so.
Do you think the problem with ChatGPT and the other large language models hallucinating and creating, sort of making up its own output, do you think that'll ever be solved, or do you think that's going to be a continuing problem?
I really think that this is something that can be solved. It's just a question of trying to find the limits of ChatGPT. For now, I think that they are in a sense of trying to show off what they can do. So they try to leverage as much as possible everything that the ChatGPT has seen during the training period. But once we move beyond the first wow effect and we want to go into live applications, I'm pretty sure that we're going to see, I don't know how they're going to do it, but applications, as you mentioned, that try to focus only on the input and limiting the prior knowledge that the model has. Even though in machine learning terms, it's pretty hard to unlearn for a model things that it has learned, but you can have external models that check the output and can ask to regenerate if something is off compared to the input that you have. But that's not, we are not the ones that are going to solve this. We need to ask Microsoft.
So you don't even think with really like heavy prompt engineering, it would still be a problem?
Might be possible, but
probably something you can try, but then the question is, are you really gaining the speed that ChatGPT is supposed to offer without, if you spend so much time actually just rewriting prompts to make it understand what you really want? And so I think here the main question is, who's going to build models that are trained for a specific purpose? The best thing out of ChatGPT is that it's something that works for almost anything, but that has its own risks. And so here, that's what we've been working on. There's still development ongoing, but this is the kind of thing where we're just trying to take an angle that we're not the only ones to think about, but try to think, how do we make it specific to our industry?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have a microphone here. I have a question related to app DNA. We are app in the travel industry. We were testing it in USA, and we got the result that we were so majority of the app that were our competitors were in the travel industry, but more like in hotels. So they were not our direct competitors. And I'm just wondering, is that a sign that maybe, I'm not 100% sure how your algorithm works, but I would just like to know if that's a sign that maybe our metadata is not well made, or there are some issues on our side that we can improve so that we are ranked correctly.
So maybe this is a bit out of topic compared to the review, so maybe you can go a bit deeper after this, but just as a short answer, it's both. It can be the metadata, but also it was pretty tough to define clear-cut clusters, these 200 DNAs. The frontier is always blurry, so sometimes the blur can affect the model, but yeah, the model is depending on the metadata. But if you want, we can go have a look at your metadata and what the model really did. Because
the challenge is also to know that sometimes you know what your app does, but the store doesn't understand it the way you intended, and that's kind of the challenge we have with semantics. So we need to really we keep trying to improve how we set clear cuts between different groups, but at the same time, I think it's probably both at the same time. Our model, we're the first to say it's always good to try and refine it further. But also, still, if it didn't see it clearly, it's probably that there are some confusing things in the metadata for the store specifically. There's one question over here, so we're going to get you the microphone.
Hi, if you're an app-based company which also uses Trustpilot, do you find there's different types of reviews on Trustpilot versus the App Store, and users' behavior, or users' trust of Trustpilot versus the App Store?
So we haven't tested the model against Trustpilot, but if you want to arrange it, we only need the inputs. That's the thing. Technically, the model is sort of store agnostic, so that means that if you even want to put an input that's technically not either App Store, we just have to get the data into the model and then see what it has to say, and if that's different from what the store shows today. Any further questions? then we will let the defense rest for the day. Thank you all for joining, really, and happy to continue the conversation.